Chosen one. When your phone lights up at midnight and a message appears that feels almost too perfectly timed, that's not coincidence. It's a spiritual test. The universe is watching how you respond when the enemy tries to bait you with words that seem harmless but carry hidden poison. God has seen that text before you even opened it. He knows the intent behind the sender. You feel that uneasy vibration in your spirit for a reason. You're not paranoid, you're discerning. Sometimes traps come wrapped in familiar names. A person from your past suddenly reaches out. A stranger speaks your language so fluently it feels like destiny. A compliment that feels rehearsed. A, "Hey, how are you?" that arrives right when you found peace. That's not random. That's timing engineered by darkness. The enemy can't destroy you directly, so it tries to distract you through conversation. It uses people who are unaware that they're being used. And if you reply, if you even engage, you open a tiny doorway for chaos to walk in dressed as charm. You're not here by accident. You've been guided to this moment. Write 99 in the comments. It's time to release your wish to the universe. When you do, say it with faith, not fear. Because every number carries intention, and 99 means completion, final testing before breakthrough. If your spirit woke up while listening, don't scroll away. Like this video. Subscribe now. You belong here. This isn't just another message. It's your confirmation that silence is your shield. Think about how many times your peace was shattered right after you answered a message you knew you shouldn't have. That gut feeling you ignored? That was God trying to save you from a cycle that wanted to repeat. The devil doesn't need to break your heart. He just needs to make you respond. Every text is an energy exchange. Every word is a seed. When you type back, you plant something. And if it's rooted in manipulation, it will grow into confusion. That's why God said, don't respond. Not because he wants to isolate you, but because he's protecting your peace. You're in a season where your silence is louder than your explanations. They don't deserve access just because they remembered your name. Not everyone who texts you is reaching out to reconnect. Some are reaching out to reopen what God already closed. Learn to let curiosity die in peace. Learn to delete without guilt. The enemy hates when you ignore him because your silence starves his power. Chosen one. Your peace is the most expensive thing you own, and the enemy knows it. That's why the attacks no longer come through storms or disasters. They come through messages. One sentence can shift your entire mood. One reply can alter your destiny. The devil doesn't always roar. Sometimes he whispers in lowercase letters, pretending to care. The trap isn't in the message itself. It's in the emotional reaction it wants to create inside you. When you respond in haste, you give energy to manipulation. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you don't respond, you take back control over your timeline. This is not just about texting. It's about energetic access. Every conversation you engage in becomes a spiritual contract. God is cutting off connections that were disguised as comfort zones. That's why he allowed certain people to ghost you, misunderstand you, or suddenly change their tone. It wasn't punishment. It was divine protection. Because the enemy studies your patterns. It knows what kind of message you can't resist. Maybe it's flattery. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's an apology you've waited years to hear. But you must understand, sometimes the "I miss you" isn't healing. It's bait. The moment you start to glow, your light attracts both angels and imitators. Some will reach out because they admire your strength. Others will reach out because they envy your peace. And the darker ones will reach out because they want to drain it. That's why this message found you today. God is saying, be careful what you reply to. You are in a sacred rebuilding phase, and every word you speak carries creative power. Don't waste divine vocabulary on demonic distractions. When your phone pings, ask yourself, does this message serve my peace or disturb it? That's your filter. Your intuition is your divine firewall. It knows before your mind understands. Don't overthink the feeling. Trust it. If something inside you whispers, don't reply, that's heaven talking. Silence isn't weakness. It's warfare. Every time you ignore a manipulative message, an angel writes it down as obedience. Heaven takes note of your restraint, because what's coming next for you requires emotional discipline. You can't step into your blessing still entertaining chaos. That's why your phone's been quieter lately. God is cleaning your communication lines. He's removing spiritual spam before your breakthrough arrives. Your destiny doesn't require you to explain yourself through texts. It requires you to protect your energy like sacred currency. Every ignored message is a seed of strength. Every silence builds a wall around your peace. The next time temptation comes disguised as a message, smile, because now you know. The trap only works on those who answer it. Chosen one. There's a reason your phone feels heavier lately. It's not the device. It's the spiritual weight that comes with discernment. You've started to sense things before they happen, to feel the vibration behind a message before even opening it. That's not paranoia. That's spiritual maturity. God has sharpened your intuition to protect your purpose. Every time your spirit tightens before you reply, that's heaven placing its hand on your shoulder saying, don't. Because sometimes one message can reset your healing, reopen your trauma, or pull you back into a version of yourself you've already buried. You see, the enemy doesn't always show up as chaos. It shows up as comfort, the kind that feels familiar, but costs your growth. It knows your patterns, your triggers, your soft spots. It knows when you're lonely, when you crave closure, when you miss being understood. And that's when it strikes, through a message that sounds harmless, nostalgic, or kind. But behind those words is an energy designed to make you question everything you've healed from. That's why God said, do not respond. When you reply to manipulation, you re-enter a spiritual maze. The goal of that message isn't conversation, it's confusion. It's meant to drain you, to make you justify, to keep you explaining yourself until you forget your worth. The devil loves dialogue because it opens doors. But God teaches wisdom through silence, because silence keeps the doors sealed. That's why your power now lies in not saying a word. The more you grow, the less you respond. The more you align, the quieter you become. You're not being cold. You're being called higher. Your silence isn't rejection. It's redirection. You've already been tested in this area before. Remember that one message that felt innocent but sent your emotions into chaos? That was a trap dressed as closure. It was meant to measure if you'd learned the lesson or if you'd repeat it. Every test you pass silently multiplies your spiritual authority. Heaven watches how you handle what once hurt you. Now the universe is saying, don't fall for emotional bait. The ones who once underestimated you are shocked by your distance. They call it arrogance, but it's actually awareness. You're learning that not every vibration deserves your attention, and not every voice deserves your answer. Some people are meant to talk to the version of you that no longer exists. You're not obligated to resurrect them just because they miss your light. In this season, your silence is sacred. It's not emptiness. It's a boundary shaped by divine wisdom. God is preparing to speak to you directly, without interference, without middlemen, without manipulation. He's teaching you that clarity doesn't come through endless messages. It comes through peace. So the next time your phone rings and your soul trembles before you swipe, remember, not every message is meant to be read, and not every invitation deserves your energy. The trap loses power when you stay still. Chosen one. Tonight, heaven is whispering one thing over your life. Do not take the bait. The spiritual realm is active right now more than ever. Every message, every check-in, every sudden curiosity about your life, it's all part of the test. God wants to see if you've learned how to guard your peace, your focus, and your energy. Because before every elevation, there is a distraction designed to look harmless. The moment you respond to what you've already outgrown, you delay your own breakthrough. Think about it. How many times did peace finally find you, only for one message to pull you back into emotional warfare? The enemy studies your rhythm. It knows the sound of your progress, so it sends distractions not as explosions, but as whispers. A simple "hey" can carry spiritual hooks. A sudden apology can be timed to pull you back right before your blessing unfolds. This is not paranoia. This is discernment. Your sensitivity is your weapon. The fact that you feel something off means your spirit is online. You are now in a phase where silence is sacred currency. You don't owe everyone access. You don't need to explain why you're quiet, why you've changed, or why you no longer reply. Some will call it ego. Others will call it attitude. But heaven calls it obedience. You're protecting what you prayed for. When God tells you to stay silent, it's not rejection. It's redirection toward peace, power, and purpose. The most dangerous message isn't the one that insults you. It's the one that seduces you into emotional conversation. Because words are spiritual. Once you respond, your energy enters their atmosphere. And if their intentions are poisoned, your peace begins to suffocate. You start to feel tired without reason. You doubt yourself. You overthink every word. That's how spiritual warfare hides. In plain sight. Inside chat bubbles. But the chosen can feel when a text carries shadows. You've outgrown manipulation. You've outgrown emotional puppeteering. You've outgrown fake apologies from those who only remember you when they need your light. You are no longer accessible to darkness pretending to care. You are light wrapped in human form. That's why the enemy uses words. It can't touch your soul, so it tries to trigger it. The message isn't random, it's calculated. But your awareness is the firewall. Remember this. God doesn't need you to argue, explain, or respond. He needs you to trust. The same way he silenced the storms, he can silence the noise trying to reach you. Some connections are not enemies. They are expired assignments. They serve their purpose. Replying reactivates pain that's supposed to stay buried. So, stay still. Breathe. Let the unread message rot in your inbox. You owe no closure to chaos. You are stepping into a timeline where not answering is the new form of power. The world won't understand it, but heaven celebrates it. Every time you resist the urge to reply, an angel records it as growth. because this is how you win battles that others can't even see, by choosing silence over reaction, peace over drama, destiny over distraction. Chosen one, the storm around you is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to expose what still tries to reach you. Every unread message, every unseen notification, every tug of curiosity, these are echoes from the past, testing your strength in the present. You've become too elevated to answer back to frequencies beneath your calling. The messages that once shook your peace now sound hollow, powerless, and repetitive. That's how you know growth has taken root. You no longer crave what confused you. You no longer chase what drained you. You're learning that peace is not found in replies, it's found in restraint. You see, when you stop responding, you stop feeding what was sent to feed on you. Silence suffocates manipulation. It burns through lies. It forces the enemy to speak to itself. That's why you feel their frustration. They can't pull energy from you anymore. They can sense that their access has expired. Your boundaries have become walls of fire that no false word can pass through. Every time you ignore that message, you're declaring, "My spirit is under divine management now." You're no longer operating in emotion. You're operating in alignment. There will come a moment when your phone lights up again, and you'll know instantly, this is another test. It may sound kind, familiar, even spiritual, but your soul will recognize the difference between light and imitation. The real ones bring calm. The false ones bring confusion. That's the easiest way to tell. If your heart races, if your peace shifts, if you feel pressure to respond, that's not God. That's bait. And you've already been warned. Your silence will confuse many, but it will protect you from what explanations never could. Because you can't explain divine instruction to those still living in distraction. You can't tell them, "God told me not to respond," and expect them to understand. They weren't in the room when your spirit heard the warning. They didn't feel what you felt when peace left the moment you replied. Some lessons are personal, written only for you, sealed in divine ink. You're not being antisocial. You're being anointed. You're learning that connection without purpose is corruption. Not every message deserves a reply, because not every soul deserves your attention. You are not ignoring people. You are obeying divine order. The ones meant for you won't manipulate your silence. They'll respect it. The ones sent to test you will take offense and reveal their true colors. Let them. That's part of the exposure. So when your phone vibrates and your old world calls out for a reaction, remember, you don't owe your energy to every voice that remembers your number. You owe your peace to God. You owe your focus to the path He's building for you. The most powerful response is no response at all. Let silence speak for you, it never lies. Chosen one. The silence you've been walking in lately is not emptiness. It's divine recalibration. Heaven has muted the noise around you so you can finally hear the truth within you. You're no longer meant to reply to everything that calls your name, because not every voice comes from light. Some are echoes of old versions of you that died when you chose peace. God is teaching you the language of stillness, how to move without noise, how to win without arguing, how to walk away without leaving a trace of anger. You are being refined in restraint. The enemy's last trick is subtle, to make you believe that ignoring is cruel, that responding is kindness. But discernment tells a different story. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they once had access to it. Mercy doesn't mean contact. Forgiveness doesn't mean communication. Sometimes love means letting go and keeping the door locked, because the one who truly walks with God understands protection is also divine love. The people who text with wrong intentions carry hidden energy. They drain, they confuse, they scatter your focus. Every time you don't respond, you're building a sanctuary of clarity around your soul. Soon you'll look back and realize that this lesson was the turning point of your journey. The moment you stopped replying to manipulation was the moment you stepped into mastery. You learned that you are not everyone's mirror. You no longer reflect their confusion. You radiate truth. God has elevated your frequency so high that distractions can't reach you anymore. That's why messages that once fascinated you now feel irrelevant. You've grown beyond reaction. You've become the calm the storm can't touch. Still, understand this. Silence is not weakness. It's precision. You speak when it matters. You act when it's divine. You answer when it aligns. You no longer waste holy energy proving your peace to those committed to misunderstanding it. You've become the keeper of sacred conversations. You've learned to protect your voice because it carries light. That's why heaven warns you. Don't let darkness drag you into a dialogue it can twist. The devil can't handle quiet souls who don't feed him attention. The next message that arrives will test your readiness again. It might sound urgent. It might feel personal. But pause. Breathe. Remember this. What is meant for you won't come through manipulation. It will come through confirmation. If it shakes your peace, delete it. If it confuses your spirit, block it. If it contradicts your growth, let it fade. You've come too far to lose your clarity to curiosity. You're walking with God now, and He's whispering the same command over your destiny. Do not respond. It's a trap. Chosen one. When the silence starts to feel heavy, that's when the real battle begins. Because the enemy doesn't just want your response, it wants your reaction. It feeds on your attention, your emotion, your need to be understood. But you're no longer the person who explains their peace to chaos. You've evolved past the need for validation. You don't chase clarity from those who live in confusion. You've realized that not everyone who reaches out wants to reconnect. Some just want to reopen wounds that God already healed. Your stillness terrifies them. Your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. That's why the messages keep coming. They're trying to pull you back into a rhythm you've outgrown. But this time, your silence is the sermon. You've learned that words aren't the only way to speak. Energy speaks louder. Spirit speaks clearer. The peace surrounding you now is not random. It's the reward of wisdom. You're not ignoring people. You're protecting the vibration that God entrusted you with. You've become a guardian of frequency, not a responder of noise. Remember this. God didn't tell you not to respond because He wanted you to be cold. He said it because He's saving you from counterfeit conversations. Every reply you don't send is a timeline you refuse to reopen. Every word you don't say is a chain you refuse to wear again. You are closing cycles with silence. You are rewriting your spiritual DNA through discipline. This is how chosen ones evolve. Not through reaction, but through divine restraint. Sometimes the trap isn't the message. It's the memory it awakens. It's the comfort of old familiarity that hides decay underneath. It's that sudden rush of nostalgia that makes you think, maybe this time will be different. But deep down, you already know it won't. The enemy doesn't change. It only changes disguise. And when it realizes that your silence can't be broken, it panics. Because that's when it understands you've chosen heaven over history. You've become untouchable in ways the world can't measure. When others chase attention, you chase alignment. When others reply to noise, you reply to God. Your silence is not empty. It's full of divine conversation. You are hearing things no text could ever say. You're seeing through illusions that used to trick you. You've stepped into a higher field of awareness, and now every distraction reveals itself before it even reaches you. That's divine discernment in motion. So the next time your phone glows with that familiar vibration, smile. You already know what it is. A test, not a gift. A pattern, not a person. A shadow, not light. And as you let it fade away into nothingness, heaven smiles back at you saying, "You passed again. Chosen one." This is the silence before the dawn, the sacred pause where heaven rewrites your story in invisible ink. You've come through storms that tried to speak through people, through messages, through whispers disguised as affection. Every word meant to distract you was an arrow aimed at your destiny, but you've learned to dodge them not by fighting, but by not replying. That's the secret few ever master. Power doesn't always shout. It sometimes stands perfectly still. Your silence has become your sword. Every ignored message was a battle won in the unseen. The world will call you distant. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being cold or detached. Let them talk. They're not supposed to understand the language of those chosen to protect sacred ground. God has isolated your communication because your next chapter requires clarity, not chatter. This isn't punishment. It's preparation. He's cutting the cords of distraction so your signal to heaven remains pure. The fewer voices you reply to, the louder his becomes. You're learning to hear his direction through peace, not people. Remember how many times you responded out of curiosity, kindness, or nostalgia, only to regret it. That regret was revelation. You were never supposed to answer every knock. Some doors were only meant to test if you'd still open them. But now you've learned. You've matured spiritually to a place where silence speaks louder than explanations. You've become untouchable, not because you're hiding, but because you're in alignment. God didn't say, "Don't respond," to punish your empathy. He said it to preserve your evolution, because not everyone who texts you is checking in. Some are checking your vibration to see if you still bleed where you once broke. When you don't respond, you break that frequency forever. You send a message back to the unseen realms that says, "I'm no longer accessible to manipulation. I've risen above the reach of noise." That's why lately your circle has grown smaller, but your spirit feels lighter. The wrong people are falling away because they can't find a doorway into your peace. You've stopped explaining, stopped chasing, stopped trying to convince the world that you're not who you used to be. You finally understood that the silence God asked for was not about rejection. It was about resurrection. He's raising you from the noise of yesterday into the clarity of purpose today. And soon, the very messages that once tempted you will stop arriving altogether. The enemy gives up when it realizes the line is disconnected. That's when God begins to send his messages through signs, dreams, encounters, and confirmations so clear that you'll smile and whisper, "Now I understand why you told me not to reply, because he wasn't warning you out of fear. He was training you for discernment. So, when the next notification glows in the dark, pause. Look at it. Feel what your spirit says before your fingers move. And if even for a second your peace trembles, delete it. Walk away. You owe no reply to darkness disguised as care. Your silence is your halo now. Wear it with honor. The trap is only real for those who still answer it. But you, chosen one, are no longer that person. You've transcended the conversation. You've become the calm that chaos can't text anymore. And in that silence, heaven smiles. Because obedience isn't loud. It's still. It's knowing. It's peace. You pass the test.